Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. We've done this segment a couple of times, and it hasn't happened yet. But we do know at some point Chris Hilton is going to return to this LSU football offense. That's going to happen eventually. Brian Kelly said earlier this week he believes it will be Saturday. I believe it will be Saturday. And you all know, if you pay attention at all to LSU football, what Chris Hilton brings to LSU's offense. You're all aware of this. He's been on campus for 4 years. You saw him in recruiting. He's a local product from right here in the Baton Rouge area. You've seen him in spurts on the field, and you heard about what he was doing in fall camp. You know what Chris Hilton brings to the LSU offense. It's speed. He's the fastest wide receiver they've got. That's not news. And the fact that he would bring an incredible deep threat to this LSU offense is also not news. But there are some statistics that I dug around with today and came up with that really do paint the picture that Hilton could be or could help become the final piece to this LSU passing game, which has been excellent through 4 weeks. I mean, you look at statistics, LSU is second in the country in completed passes. That's incredibly efficient. They're 13th in the country in passing yards per game. And when you realize that there are a lot of teams that have played absolute patsies all year, and there are a lot of teams that run an air raid style offense and whatnot, the fact that LSU ranks in the top 15 in passing offense is very, very good at this point, being that you've played UCLA, USC, and South Carolina. That's a real schedule. Say what you will about South Carolina standing in the SEC or how good UCLA is. They're not. But those are 3 functional football teams, and you're 13th in the country in passing yards per game. You're 5th in the country in passing touchdowns to this point, and you've been very diverse in what you're trying to do. 5 players on this team have caught 10 passes or more. Back on Saturday against UCLA, in a game that you did win by 17 points, but I wouldn't suggest was a complete blowout where you're just chunking the rest of the guys in there and throwing it around and getting everybody involved. You had 9 guys make a catch in that game. So when you look at LSU, statistically speaking, in the passing game, you're talking about a team that completes a ton of passes for a ton of yards to a lot of people for a lot of touchdowns. Like, that's as good as you can be. But there's one piece that they're not quite unlocking, and it's the big plays. They're 60th in the country in yards per attempt. Not yards per completion, yards per attempt. But you realize that they're really, really good in terms of their completion percentage. Nussmeier's completing about 70%. So it's not that they're throwing a bunch of incompletions, so they're inefficient in that way. They are completing a lot of passes. They're just around the line of scrimmage a lot. They're in the intermediate part of the field. LSU's 12th in the country in completion percentage, as I mentioned there. But they're still gaining yards. They're just not creating the chunk plays. You talk about LSU's rank in the SEC. They're second in terms of pass plays or of 10 or more yards. They're second in the conference, 10 or more yard pass plays. They're also one of 5 teams in the league that does not have a 50-plus yard pass play. They have not busted one for a huge gain in a month. And Chris Hilton's really good at that. And you look at what Kyron Lacy has become. He's a big physical body. Remember that first drive against USC, just a ton of 8, 12, 14-yard catches, third down catches. He can go up and get you vertically as well. He's got long arms and a big catch radius. You look at Aaron Anderson and the success that he's had. A lot of it's been around the line of scrimmage in the screen game. He did stretch the field twice against South Carolina for catches of 20, 25 yards, and that was really good to see. But you know what his strengths are. Xavier Thomas. His touchdown catch in the game against UCLA was on that pop pass. That's a behind the line of scrimmage, basically a handoff that you're using his speed to get to the edge. And he outran a UCLA defender that was really in position, but Xavier Thomas just outran him. And LSU's going to work that screen game, and they're going to work Kyron Lacy in the intermediate. And Mason Taylor last week became the all-time leader at LSU in catches and yards by a tight end. He's awesome at working the intermediate game. He's not going to stretch the field horizontally. That would be vertically. He's not going to stretch the field vertically. Chris Hilton does. Last year, he averaged 17 yards per catch. Now, he wasn't a focal point of last year, but he averaged 17 yards per catch. He made a 42-yard catch in the shootout against Ole Miss. And you'll all remember this. This is with Garrett Nussmeier at the helm. LSU backed up in their own territory late in the game, trailing against Wisconsin, needing a touchdown in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Boom. 43 yards down the left sideline. Nussmeier hits a streaking Chris Hilton to set up 2 plays later the Brian Thomas touchdown catch that won it. Chris Hilton basically got his career kick-started with the 81-yard touchdown catch from John Trey Kirkland in the Texas Bowl. Now, we all know how that game went. It was a complete blowout. LSU had a wide receiver playing quarterback. And at that point, I don't know how much Kansas State was trying or not. They were up by a bajillion. It was the last play of the game. But Chris Hilton ran by everybody, and John Trey Kirkland threw it up in the air, and he made the catch and ran it in for an 81-yard touchdown. Speed is a powerful thing. And if you're an opposing coach and you're game planning for LSU, you are absolutely going to want to come up close to the line of scrimmage to try to take away Kyron Lacy and Mason Taylor work in that intermediate. You're going to want to get up close enough to make a tackle on a screen play to Aaron Anderson or to Xavier Thomas. And we haven't talked about Kyle Parker yet in this segment, but he's only been there for a game and a half, but he's the technician, a route runner. He's going to win in the intermediate, although he did make the big play for a touchdown against UCLA. That's not going to be what he does most of the time. But if you're going to try to come up and take all that away, you better look at number 3, which is what Chris Hilton's going to wear this year. Y'all haven't seen that yet. I've seen it at practice, but he's in 3 now. You're going to want to look at him because if you bring everybody up, he can go right by you. He is way fast. And if you want to take his speed away, you may have to either back up off of him or back everybody up in order to take that away, and that's when LSU can feast in the intermediate. We're waiting on LSU's running game to start creating a push and doing a little bit more, and I still hold out hope that that can happen. But the passing game's been really good. This is the missing piece. And I'll tell you this. To suggest that Chris Hilton is only a vertical threat that can only just run by guys and make 45-yard catches is incorrect. We saw him in camp really, really do a nice job of route running, of creating separation, of being strong and making contested catches. Like, he did a good job in camp in every aspect of being a wide receiver, and that's the maturation. He showed up here as the highest-ranked wide receiver in a class that included Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Those guys are first-round picks. He's still here because he's dealt with an injury 2 of his 3.5 years here. But he can really do a lot of things for this LSU offense, and it's not like they have to have him to produce. It's just the final piece to this puzzle, and I'm really excited to see it in this game, and then you got a bye week to get him integrated once again, and then see what he can do against Ole Miss. Because guess what? I think you're all aware of this too. When Ole Miss comes to town, LSU ain't winning that game 20-17. Not going to happen. To win that game against Ole Miss, LSU's going to have to score 35 points. And they can, but you're going to have to be really good in your strength, which is the passing game, and Hilton can help with that. I really think this could be a huge boon to LSU's offense because it adds something they don't right now possess in spades. Sure, Kyron Lacy can run. Yes, Aaron Anderson can run. Kyle Parker just made a catch down the field in the game against UCLA. It's not that they cannot stretch the field at all. Hilton's the best they've got at doing that. And I'm pumped up to integrate him into that, and you become a really diverse passing game that I believe will give LSU a shot every single Saturday. I wouldn't love LSU in Athens right now. I wouldn't love LSU in Tuscaloosa right now. I wouldn't love LSU in Austin right now. I wouldn't love it if LSU had to go to Columbus, Ohio to play. None of those games are on the schedule. The best teams LSU is going to play are coming to Tiger Stadium. And I give LSU a real chance in those games. But to win those games, they're going to have to throw it exceptionally well because that's the strength of their team, and that's what's going to allow them to keep up with opposing offenses that will likely score some points on this defense. Chris Hilton makes you better at that. I'm excited to see it. If you want to read about it, you can check it out at louisianasports.net. I put a story up. It's got all these statistics kind of laid out right there for you. I'm excited to see what he can do coming up this Saturday inside Tiger Stadium. We'll step aside when we come back. Luke Johnson talking Saints. got some injuries to deal with as they head to Atlanta to play the Atlanta Falcons. We'll talk about that coming up next. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.